Hello, welcome to Northwest Air Guns. I'm John, and this morning we have a tale of 3 Benjamin repeating air rifles. So I was cleaning up around the shop here, and I have a shelf with some guns on it that are project guns that at some point I'm going to get around to working on and hopefully fix up. And I realized that I have 3 Benjamin pumpers that are actually repeaters, and I didn't have any of these as a kid, but somebody must have, because I do recall being out in the hills behind the house and somebody shooting, and every time they raised the gun up you'd hear all the shot roll down to this end, and when they pointed the muzzle down they'd run back, and so you had this constant noise-making machine. And when they walked around too, you know, it's hard to keep the muzzle one direction. So I thought it might be interesting to do a short video and take a look at these 3 and the differences between them. And so that's what we're looking at here today. We've got a 710, a 720, and a 3120. Well, our first specimen here is a 710, and this is a model that was made, well, it shows up in the catalog in 1940. We can take a quick look at that. Okay, well, the main book that I rely on when it comes to Benjamin air rifles is this one. It's the St. Louis and Benjamin Air Rifle Companies. This was written by Dean Fletcher, and I think or D.T. Fletcher. He frequents the American Vintage Airguns Forum, and the first printing was 1999, and that was actually the only printing as far as I'm aware of. Although I think Dean might be looking at coming out with a second edition, because he's got more information than he did when he started here. But this has, let's see, I marked some pages here. This has, for instance, an advertisement here. This would be, what, from back in 1908, or that era, a new Model C, talking about all the different features. $3 on the Pacific Coast, but east of the Rocky Mountains, $2.50. So we got a lot of ads in here. We got patents. These are the patent drawings for some of the early Benjamin air guns. This was 1917 for the Model E, I believe, that was replacing the Model F. So it's a lot of good information in here. What else do we got? Okay, so here we start getting into it. And I marked this page because we're looking at the Model 710, which is a repeater, but the predecessor was the Model 700, and this was a similar construction with the 25-shot magazine, spring-fed. Basically, it is the 710, but it's a front pumper. So that was the predecessor. And this was produced in 1938, and then in 1940 we have the 710 here. Cost $10 in 1940. And I love the ad, you know, auto loading, bolt action, hammer fire, hair trigger. Now you don't see many guns or air guns advertised today with a hair trigger. So anyway, that was the 710 introduced in 1940 in the catalog. And then in 1947 we have the 720, which is the same gun but without the extra air cylinder. So there's a lot of information about changes to different models and stuff like that that are shown in these catalogs. And it takes you basically from the 1890s up through the 1990s. In the back of this book we have the instruction sheet, basically the owner's manual for all of these guns, and this is for the 310 through 317, and then the 710. The 710, it says, shoot steel air rifle shot only. Let's see, after blah, 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 blah. There's a couple interesting things here. Once you've got it loaded, the bolt should not be pulled back again until the gun has been fired, as each time the bolt is pulled back, another shot automatically feeds from the magazine. And if the shot which was previously placed in firing position has not been discharged, it will be released and roll out. So you can't double load this one because it's got this spring mechanism that forces the BB, or the shot rather, into the firing position, and it's set up so that you can't put two of them in. One of them's going to roll out the barrel. Do not use lead shot in this model. Let's see. So it has the owner's manual for this one. The 710 shows up here, or 720 rather. It has the owner manual for the 720, and there was something interesting I thought I saw here about 720 shoots only steel air rifle shot. So you fill a magazine, load one, don't double load it, and then let's see, where was it? At least 2 or more shots must be kept in the magazine for shooting, as the last shot is not fired out, since it acts as part of the feeding mechanism. So you had to keep at least one shot in the gun, or one round shot in the gun, or something bad would happen. I don't know what. So there's the 720, and we have the parts diagram for it and the parts list. This is a good book if you get a chance to pick one of these up, or if Dean ever comes out with another edition, and you're interested in the Benjamin air rifles, pick one of these up. So this gun was made sometime between 1940 and say 1946, and it shows up, if we can get that, there it is, the 710. You can see it here. The end cap is different than our more current 310, 312 models. You know, the concept of a repeater in a pump-up gun seems kind of silly to me, because you got to pump it up. It doesn't take that much longer to put a shot into the breech. But this one was a little bit unusual, and I'm not sure if it was the case on the old 700 front pumpers, because it had an extra air cylinder. I'll take a look at that right now. So the stock is grooved out, and you have this this extra cylinder, and it's connected to the compression chamber in here. I'm not sure how, but it's connected through to the compression chamber, and so when you pump it up, you're pumping up both of these air chambers. And the idea is you would shoot, cycle another shot into the breech and shoot a second shot, maybe even a third, without having to pump up again. So it's kind of the original air conserving pumper, and you access this through this screw on the end, and I'm not sure, we're not going to take it apart today, but I'm not quite sure how that mechanism is connected or how we go about resealing it, but we'll figure that out. You load it here, pull the follower back, and then load it, your shot in here. This takes steel shots. This took steel shot only, no lead shot. So I think it had a pretty finicky feeding mechanism in here so that any imperfection or softness might have been affected, and that may be the reason that they said to use steel shot only. And this was not a gravity feed mechanism either. It's a spring fed here. This lever is pushing against the shot and pushing them into the breech here. So you didn't have to tip this up while you were reloading it. This particular specimen is kind of a basket case. You know, I saved it really because it's an unusual model, 710, you don't see very often. You can see it's been resoldered here. Somebody resoldered the barrel. They may have moved the sight back when they did that, but it didn't stick because the barrel is separating. All of this stuff is wallowed out. This is broken here, so you don't have a continuous bridge around the tube. So it's really a mess. And this is one I kept. I taped it here so I wouldn't be tempted to pump on it. And it's one that is a long-term project. And you know, I'd like to restore it someday, but we'll just have to see, because once I get into it might be too much. But that's the long-term goal, is to restore this back to function. Okay, and one last thing to mention about the 710 is that here at the muzzle end, the barrel measures about 170 thousandths of an inch. So you required steel shot in this, and whatever size that is, that's what you'd shoot in it. It's possible that it could shoot the copper covered BBs, but I'm not sure about that. So that's that one. Then we move on to the next specimen. This is the 720. You can see basically from here back, look at the safety, look at the cam plate. This is identical, and the back cap actually. If we can get that. That's all the same as you would find in a Benjamin 312 or 310 or 317. So this part of the design was changed. The feed mechanism is the same as in the 720, where you have a spring-loaded follower here that forces the shot into position, and then there's some springs in here in this piece that hold it in position, and then when you pull back the bolt, force it into position. This also used steel shot, no lead shot, and this one's not in bad shape. The barrel's good. It's not all wallowed out. It's got the cross piece here, the bridge across the tube, so it's intact. The lever looks good. So this is a good candidate. And let's see. I don't know if it pumps up or not, but this would be a good candidate for a restoration too, or at least a reseal. It doesn't have the second air chamber underneath, so this is just a single shot, and then you have to repump. So the last specimen in the Benjamin repeaters is this model 3120, and when I got this, it had a nail holding the back end in, and so what I did is I went ahead and retapped that and put a new screw in. You can see that what they did is they just added a, I get it in the picture here, they just added a magazine tube to the top of the barrel and figured out a way to extend the front side up somewhat to attach it. The BBs are shot. I get this. Well, take my word for it. There's a hole there, and you turn this or slide it back down the tube and fill it up, and then put that back up there to hold it in place. And if you notice, this is basically a 312, 310, 317 type of mechanism, and what they basically did is just drill a hole here for, instead of having a loading slot, they drilled a hole and then the shot drops down through that. And that's how this one works. And I mentioned that it's quite a few years back, but I think the nail was in this hole here. So I drilled it and tapped it there, and then drilled it and tapped it here for a second one so that it would hopefully be stronger. I was concerned that after the nail had been in there, it might not hold so well. So that's kind of how the 3120 works on this. A lot of times you see them, and the problem is they're missing the magazine. And if they're missing the magazine, they are essentially a one shot, and you would feed it in the hole here into the breech. So, okay, that's it. Back to work, but I just thought it was maybe an interesting tour of the Benjamin repeating air rifles over time. Thanks for watching.